What's going on, everyone? Today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to replace your rear tube and or tire on your electric bike. Now this process should work for any electric bike class 1 through 3 that is hub driven. And for the purpose of today's video, I'm going to be using my Lectric XP 3.0 folding electric bike. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is remove your battery. All right, so the next thing you're gonna wanna do is flip the bike upside down. That way it'll be easier to work on the rear wheel. All right, so next thing is to disconnect your rear wheel hub motor, which is right here. It's the biggest connector, and this is found underneath the bike. And to do that, you're gonna have to remove these zip ties. And once you remove those, go ahead and gently disconnect your hub motor. It might be a little difficult, but it will come out. There you go. Give it a little wiggle and just pull slowly and it'll come out. Now that we've disconnected the hub motor, we're gonna go ahead and take off the chain. And to do that, it's pretty easy. You just push the derailleur up, which will loosen the chain, and it'll allow you to pull the chain off the wheel just like that and disconnect. And it'll also allow you to pull the chain off from the main crank and give you some slack. And all you're gonna wanna do is make sure that the chain is off of the rear wheel. So now we can move on to taking off the rear wheel. Keep in mind when it comes to removing your rear hub motor wheel to replace anything on it, every e-bike has one of these special washers that goes in between the nut and the bracket itself, and it's a special shape too, which I will show you. But just be aware of its orientation and what the bike looks like as you're taking it off so that you can remember how to put it back on the correct way. All right, now we're using a 17 deep socket and just an adjustable wrench to get this off. All right, once those bolts are broken loose, you could pretty much just do it by hand on both sides. So there's the first bolt, and like I said, there are washers, and this bike particularly has two washers. This is a regular washer that goes on before the bolt, and then there's a special shaped washer on each side on the inside of this bracket that I'm about to show you. Those little washers right there on the end, as you can see, those are the washers that I'm talking about that are basically spacers. So be aware when you're taking off the wheel and remember how this goes on. And the way it goes on is with that notch up on top of the wire. All right, so on the derailleur side, this bracket comes off. This is the derailleur guard. And then there's this one more bracket that we need to take off in order to take the rear wheel off. So there's actually two of these little black brackets on either side. Should just come right out. The wheel comes out nice and easy. Just like that. All right, now let's replace the tube and the tire. All right, so now here's everything you need to replace the tube and the tire. We got our tube, we've got our tire, we've got some rim guards and a couple of spoons that came with the tube to get it on easy. Also, a couple of things to note: if you've never changed a tire on a bike or bicycle or motorcycle or any type of tire whatsoever, usually they have a rotation direction that you need to be aware of. So go ahead and look on your tire, and as you can see, it says rotation with an arrow. That is the direction that the tire is supposed to roll. So match up that direction with your new tire. Rotation right there, those arrows are the same, and we're gonna leave it just like this so we can just take the tire and tube off and not get any mix-ups. Okay, so start by finding the valve, take the nipple off, push that through. And I like to use the guard so I don't scratch the rim or anything. You take the spoon, you get it behind the rim like that. You might not even need that tool, that guard, Because usually with these smaller bikes, it's a lot easier to get these tires off with these smaller bikes. Just like that. You really only have to take off one rim in order to get the tube out. But since we're replacing the tire and the tube, we're gonna take off everything. So reach in, make sure that valve is out, reach in, pull your tube out. Now, in order to test and see if it's actually the tube that is flat or has a puncture in it, we're gonna go run over here and we're gonna pump in some air and see if we can find any air holes. It's filling up with air, but it's not getting tight and the PSI isn't changing at all. So I would say we got a punctured tube. Let's turn this off and see if we can hear any air. Yep, I can hear it. You probably can't hear it, but I can feel it. It's literally, it's that little dot right there. Air coming out. And there's our old tire. And remember the direction of the rotation. We're looking at that way. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the inside rim onto it. So you're just basically gonna wanna get this rim to sit on the inside of this side so that we can then flip it over and put the tube in. All right, now that we got one side of the tire on, now we're going to fill up the new tube with a little bit of air, not too much, but just enough to get it stiff so we can slide it into the inside of the wheel. All right, so now you just line up your valve with the wheel and tuck it in there. And what you want to do is get the valve through that hole so it can anchor the tube in place. So once you got the valve through the hole like that, go ahead and put the nipple back on, which will lock it and keep it from sliding back through the hole like that. And then it's just a matter of tucking the tube into the tire, nice and easy. Make sure you don't have any pinches. And if you don't want to mess up your rims and it's the first time you do it, you should probably use these just in case. Use the spoon and work that bead in there and pry the wheel into the rim, or the tire into the rim rather. Now go through and make sure the tire is in the wheel all the way around on both sides. And then from here, we're gonna slowly inflate and get the bead to set, and then we're good to go. As you're filling it up, you wanna watch the beads and make sure they set correctly. And then it's always a good rule of thumb to go ahead and give it a little bounce, roll it, bounce it. Make sure everything is set perfectly. And then now it's just a matter of putting it right back on the same way we took it off. Now when you're putting it back in, go nice and slow. And remember, you have to line up your rotor with the brake pads. All right, now we throw back on these little brackets on both sides. And from right here, we can go ahead and put the chain back on. Bring that derailleur back up, make sure we're in the right gear, and bring this back over. Put that back onto the large crankshaft. Make sure this rear chain is in the right gear, and just slowly put it back together. Now the last thing before we tighten everything up and put the bolts back on, we're gonna put on our derailleur guard. Next thing is gonna be the washer and the nut itself. And now it's the same thing for this side. Go ahead and put our washer on first. Hand tighten our bolt so that we don't misthread anything. And then we'll go ahead and crank it down. And then we'll go ahead and plug this in before we do the final one. Pay attention because there are arrows on each side of the connector that should line it up perfectly for you. Now all that's left to do is put the battery back in and you're ready to roll. If you guys like this video or if you learned anything from this video, go ahead and hit the like button and do me a favor and subscribe for more videos just like this coming here in the future. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.